Today, we will explore a very compelling story from the Bible about King Solomon, who gave profound warnings about women you should never trust. But hold on, because throughout this journey, we will also discover a wonderful image of the woman you should seek and cherish. Have you ever wondered who the ideal woman in your eyes is? Feel free to share your thoughts right under this video. King Solomon, the son of King David, faced great challenges when he ascended to the throne. In a special dream, God granted him priceless wisdom to rule over the nation of Israel. But alongside this wisdom, he also experienced turbulent relationships, and in the end, he taught us a valuable lesson about the qualities that a truly trustworthy woman should possess. Let us look back at Solomon's warnings in the book of Proverbs, where he shares the dangers of fallen women, those who can destroy not only your life, but also your family's happiness and your relationship with God. But not only that, we will also explore the image of a woman who fears the Lord, the one that every man should seek and every woman should strive to become. So, who will you choose to accompany you in this life? Let's explore together and share your thoughts. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our videos. Together, we will share valuable insights and build a trustworthy and strong community. Let's get started right now. Solomon was the son of King David and Bathsheba, a prince born into a royal family. But unlike other children, his story began in a scandalous relationship, yet it ended in redemption and glory. Indeed, God had a special plan for Solomon even before he was in his mother's womb, and this was prophesied before he was born. God had destined Solomon to bring peace to the nation of Israel. The name Solomon in Hebrew means peace, which truly aligns with his destiny. However, the road to Solomon's throne was not an easy one. As the 10th son of David, Solomon was clearly not the legitimate heir. His older brother Adonijah believed that he was the most deserving to inherit the throne. Can you imagine the tension and power struggle within the palace at that time? This tense relationship led to plots and power struggles, but ultimately, a timely intervention helped secure Solomon's future. As David neared death, the prophet Nathan and Bathsheba stepped forward to remind the king of the promise he made to God that Solomon would be his successor. And in a significant act, David declared Solomon as his heir and anointed him in front of the entire nation of Israel. Try to imagine that moment. A young Solomon, perhaps feeling overwhelmed, suddenly had to take on the heavy responsibility of leading a powerful kingdom. The Bible records in 1 Kings 2 verse 12 that Solomon sat on the throne of his father David, and his kingdom was firmly established. However, great power comes with great challenges. His father's final words were not just blessings, but also a series of important instructions to deal with threats, reward the faithful, and most importantly, to live according to the path God had laid out. For a young king, that was indeed no easy task. The story of Solomon teaches us a valuable lesson. God can accomplish great plans in ways no one expects. He can take a child born from a complicated relationship and elevate him to the heights of glory. This is a reminder that our past does not determine our future, especially when God is present in our lives. With Solomon at the beginning of his reign, when the kingdom was full of hope and potential, we cannot help but wonder, what will this young king do with the great challenges he faces? How will his father's legacy influence Solomon's decisions in the future? And if God gave you the chance to ask for something from him, what would you choose? Wealth, health, or victory over your enemies? This is the question Solomon faced in a special dream that changed history. God appeared to Solomon at Gibeon and said, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." 1 Kings 3:5. It was an unlimited opportunity, a test of the soul to explore Solomon's heart, the new king of Israel. Solomon's answer was surprising, at least for a young king newly ascended to the throne. Instead of seeking personal gain, he asked for wisdom to govern God's people. His request was, "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." 1 Kings 3:9. This pleased God, who not only gave Solomon wisdom, but also wealth, honor, and long life. There was another unique aspect about King Solomon that none of the kings of his time could compare to. Solomon had a marriage relationship with 1,000 women, specifically 700 wives and 300 concubines. Therefore, in terms of experience with women, it is undeniable that Solomon was a master. The wisdom of King Solomon that surpassed all others is clearly demonstrated in the story of two mothers disputing over a child before the king. Solomon's wisdom was not only shown in his ability to resolve disputes and govern the nation, but also in his understanding of the natural world, from plants to animals. He composed 3,000 proverbs and 1,005 songs. His insights into human nature and how to live according to God's ways have been preserved for us in the books of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon. The Bible recounts, King Solomon loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter, and Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women, from the nations of whom the Lord had said to the Israelites, "You shall not intermarry with them, neither shall they marry your daughters, for surely they will turn away your hearts after their gods." But Solomon clung to these in love. He had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. 1 Kings 11, 1-3. And his wives turned away his heart. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not loyal to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and did not fully follow the Lord, as did his father David. 1 Kings 11, 4-6. Today, the opportunity for foreign influences to enter our lives has become easier than ever due to global integration. While this broadens our understanding, it also makes it easier for us to stumble and forget our God. Let us therefore pray that God will keep us from such dangerous temptations. If you share this desire, please leave an amen in the comments below. Returning to King Solomon, his marriage to Pharaoh's daughter was one of the most famous unions, marking an important alliance with Egypt. This was a significant turning point, as for the first time, an Israelite king was seen as equal to the mighty Pharaoh. However, this marriage came at a cost. Solomon built a palace for his Egyptian wife, bringing foreign cultural influences right into the heart of Jerusalem. These marriages not only opened the door for trade and diplomacy, but also made it easier for Israel to be exposed to foreign religions. Solomon's wives turned his heart away from the Lord to foreign gods, creating a great distraction in the king's soul, leading him further from the path that God had laid out. And we can see Solomon's choice was not just a personal decision, but also a warning for us. When we allow foreign influences to infiltrate our lives, we can easily be pulled away from the principles of the Lord. Marrying those of other faiths was not only a turning point politically and culturally, but it also challenged his loyalty and unity with God. At the end of his life, King Solomon wrote the famous scripture, "Meaningless, meaningless." Solomon had devoted himself to indulgence with women, but his actions only led to folly. When someone like him speaks about a woman you should not trust, you may need to listen carefully. And at the same time, when he speaks about the woman you should seek and trust, you should also listen and remember these words. In the book of Proverbs, King Solomon gave advice on the qualities we should look for in a wife. He said that a virtuous woman is worth far more than rubies, that she works diligently and manages her household well. He also pointed out that a good wife is trustworthy, loving, compassionate, and a source of joy and blessing to her husband. In the book of Ecclesiastes, King Solomon says that he had many wives and concubines, but he also admits that he made mistakes in his choices. He warns us not to be led by beauty or charm, but to seek a woman with good character, wisdom, and compassion. He advises us to look beyond outward appearances and choose a woman who is loyal, trustworthy, and shares the same values and beliefs as we do. Dear brothers and sisters, the advice of King Solomon is still relevant today, just as it was in his time. Choosing a spouse is one of the most important decisions we will make in our lives, and it will affect us for the rest of our years. Let us explore the advice in Solomon's Proverbs, about the types of women you should never trust or allow into your life. First, Solomon addresses the dangers of the fallen woman. In Proverbs 23:27-28, "For an adulterous woman is a deep pit, and a wayward wife is a narrow well. Like a bandit she lies in wait and multiplies the unfaithful among men." In this passage, King Solomon speaks about two types of women, the prostitute and the adulterous wife, both of whom are dangerous and can lead a person into folly. The prostitute is compared to a deep pit, a place full of danger and darkness, and she is also likened to a thief lying in wait, ready to pounce on unsuspecting men. The adulterous wife, on the other hand, is compared to a narrow well. At first, the well may appear inviting and refreshing, but in the end, it is a dangerous place that leads to destruction. She is also one who increases the number of unfaithful men, enticing them and leading them down the path of ruin. King Solomon's warning is clear. Sexual immorality can lead us to destruction. It can destroy relationships, families, and our lives. It can also have far-reaching consequences, affecting not only ourselves but also those around us. A prime example of the type of woman mentioned in Proverbs 23:27-28 is Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife is a character in the Bible, and her story serves as a warning to all of us about the dangers of sexual temptation and the consequences of giving in to it. To this day, choosing a spouse remains a lifelong decision for each of us. Choosing an immoral woman is also a tool that the enemy uses to destroy our lives. We must find a pure woman whom God approves of, so that she may accompany us in moving toward the good things in the Lord. Do you agree with this? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and continue following the videos to understand more about the messages in the Bible. Potiphar was an Egyptian official responsible for managing Pharaoh's bodyguard. The Bible recounts that Potiphar's wife was attracted to Joseph, and she repeatedly tried to seduce him, but Joseph rejected her advances, saying, "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" We know that Joseph was the son of Jacob, and after being sold into Egypt by his brothers, he was bought by Potiphar and became the steward of Potiphar's household. Potiphar's wife, a woman of great power, was captivated by Joseph's appearance and character. She constantly sought ways to seduce him, and one day, when no one else was in the house, she took her chance. But despite her advances, Joseph steadfastly refused. And then, in a decisive moment, when Potiphar's wife tried to force Joseph into doing something wrong, Joseph did not hesitate to flee, leaving his cloak in her hands. This made Potiphar's wife feel extremely angry and ashamed for being rejected, and she falsely accused Joseph of a crime he did not commit. She screamed that Joseph had tried to assault her, and the cloak that Joseph left behind became evidence for her accusation. When Potiphar heard his wife's words and saw the cloak, he became very angry. This was not the first time Potiphar's wife tried to seduce Joseph. He had lived in Potiphar's house for 11 years, and during this time, Potiphar's wife repeatedly attempted to do so, which means for 11 years, Joseph resolutely resisted temptation. Proverbs 23, verse 27-28 records, "For a prostitute is a deep pit, and an adulterous woman is a narrow well. She also lies in wait as for a victim, and increases the unfaithful among men." We can learn many lessons from both Potiphar's wife and Joseph. The lesson we can learn from Potiphar's wife is this: those who are in the wrong will accuse you and try to lead you to death when you are innocent and have done nothing wrong. This is unfortunate, but it is the world we live in. There are men and women, just like Potiphar's wife, and I wish this world were a place where everyone was honest and did not falsely accuse each other. But unfortunately, that is not the world we live in. In Joseph and Potiphar's wife's time, the punishment was extremely harsh, and the life of a slave like Joseph had little value. Therefore, Potiphar's wife knew that her false accusation would almost certainly result in a death sentence for Joseph, but she continued to lie about this honorable man simply because he refused to bow to her will. Women like her still exist, and men like Potiphar's wife still exist, because if you do not do what they want, they will not hesitate to lead you to your grave. Potiphar's wife serves as a warning to all of us about the dangers of temptation. She was a woman driven by her own fleshly desires and was willing to use her power and influence to get what she wanted. She was ready to destroy someone else's life just to satisfy her own lustful desires. She was willing to bring Joseph to the brink of execution just to satisfy her own lust. As children of God, we are called to live lives of purity and holiness. We are called to avoid sexual sin and honor God with our bodies. This means we must be careful with the relationships we maintain and the choices we make. Potiphar's wife is a warning to us about the dangers of sexual temptation and the consequences of giving in to it. We must always be vigilant against temptations that come our way and resist them with all our strength. We must also be cautious with the people we associate with and the friends we make, because the truth is, there are still Potiphar's wives in this world, not just women, but also men, and to think otherwise is naive. She was a woman who was already married, yet she attempted to commit adultery with someone who worked for her, someone who might have felt easily pressured to submit to her demands. She did not care about her husband, she did not care about marriage, and she did not care about the life of another person. Potiphar's wife had a wicked character, which is why she serves as the perfect example of the kind of woman described in Proverbs 23:27-28. Potiphar's wife clearly did not value virtue. Be mindful of the virtue of those you choose to associate. The lesson we can learn from Joseph's resilience against temptation is a powerful example for all of us. It reminds us that no matter how strong the temptation, we always have a choice. We can choose to give in and satisfy our desires, or we can choose to steadfastly resist temptation and honor God with our bodies and actions. Potiphar's wife may have tried to seduce Joseph for 11 years, but Joseph remained faithful. He did not fall into the desires of youth. I'm sure Potiphar's wife was an attractive woman, but Joseph resolutely resisted temptation. We always have a choice. Genesis 39:8 says, "But he refused and said to his master's wife, 'My master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand.'" In response to Potiphar's wife's advances, Joseph recalled what he could lose. And the truth is, today, everyone hearing me, whether young or old, has much to lose if they yield to temptation and fall for the wrong person. That temptation is not worth losing your marriage or making your children go through the pain of divorce. That temptation is not worth losing your purity or your ability to serve God. Facing the wrong person led Samson to lose his life. This is a serious matter. What will it make you lose? What will it cost you? Focus on virtue. Now that we've looked at the type of women you should stay away from as a man, and the kind of man you should refuse to become as a woman, let's look at a few examples of the type of women the Bible advises us to seek, and the type of women should strive to become. There are wonderful, God-fearing, sincere, and kind-hearted women in this world. If you are married to one of them, or if your children are one of them, cherish and love them. It's a direct lie from hell that there are no more wonderful women. They are still out there, and God continues to create his beautiful daughters. They are still out there, those women full of grace. According to Proverbs 11:16, a gracious woman gains respect, but ruthless men gain only wealth. A gracious woman is kind, polite, and thoughtful. She is the kind of woman suitable for any Christian man to marry, even though society today is in sharp decline. Yet, God still preserves beautiful Christian daughters for his sons. If you allow God to lead, he will bring a gracious woman into your life. Proverbs 18:22 reminds us that a good wife is a gift that every man should receive from the Lord. He who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. A gracious woman will not dishonor her husband as Queen Vashti did to King Xerxes. This story is recorded in the book of Esther in the Bible. Queen Vashti was the wife of King Xerxes, a powerful king who ruled the Persian Empire from India to Ethiopia. In the 3rd year of his reign, King Xerxes held a grand banquet that lasted for over 100 days. The columns of the palace were draped with silk, the floors were covered with smooth carpets, and the beds were made of gold and silver. Guests drank from golden cups encrusted with jewels. One night, King Xerxes commanded Queen Vashti to come before him and display her beauty to the guests, but Queen Vashti refused to obey. She did not want to comply with the king's request, perhaps because she did not want to be treated as a mere object to be displayed for the entertainment of the crowd, or perhaps she did not want to participate in such an extravagant and inappropriate event. Vashti's refusal angered King Xerxes. His advisors counseled him that if nothing were done about Vashti's actions, it might cause a rebellion among the women in the kingdom. Therefore, King Xerxes decided to depose Vashti and seek a new wife. The king sent his officials throughout the empire to find beautiful young women to choose a new queen. At that time, Mordecai, a Jewish official, was raising his niece Esther, a beautiful young woman who was selected among the women vying for the position. All the women were brought into the harem under the care of the eunuchs. Mordecai visited Esther daily and advised her to hide her Jewish identity, fearing that the king would not accept a Jewish woman as queen. After 12 months of careful preparation, the young women were bathed in perfumes, anointed with skin creams, and made up, and they were sent to the king one by one. When it was Esther's turn, King Xerxes immediately knew that she was the wife he wanted. He no longer sought anyone else. One day, while performing his duties, Mordecai discovered 2 eunuchs plotting to assassinate the king. He informed Esther, and Esther told the king. The king caught the culprits and punished them. Afterward, King Xerxes promoted Haman to the position of chief official. All the palace officials bowed down to Haman, but Mordecai did not bow. This angered Haman, and he sought revenge, not only against Mordecai, but against the entire Jewish people. Haman informed the king that there was a group of people in the kingdom who did not obey the king's laws and needed to be destroyed. King Xerxes agreed and gave Haman the authority to issue a decree to annihilate all the Jews. When Mordecai heard this news, he was deeply distressed and went to Esther, asking her to plead with the king to spare the Jewish people. He said, "You became queen not to be the king's wife, but to save your people." Esther replied, "Pray for me. I will go to the king. If I perish, I perish." Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace. When the king saw her, he extended the golden scepter toward her, allowing her to come near. The king said, "What is it, Queen Esther? Whatever you want, I will give you." Esther replied, "Let the king and Haman come to a banquet I have prepared for the king." Haman was pleased to be invited, but he did not forget his plan to hang Mordecai. That night, King Xerxes could not sleep and asked for the royal chronicles to be read. When the account of Mordecai discovering the plot to assassinate the king was read, the king remembered that he had not rewarded Mordecai. The king asked Haman, "What should be done for the man whom I honor?" Haman thought the king was referring to himself, so he answered, "The man should be dressed in the king's royal robes, wear the king's crown, and ride through the city on the king's horse." King Xerxes replied, "Then reward Mordecai in this way." The next day, the king and Haman went to the banquet prepared by Queen Esther. Esther then asked the king for a favor. The king asked, "What is it? Speak, and I will give it to you." Esther replied, "My life and the lives of my people are at risk. We have been sold as slaves and now are to be killed like animals. Please, O king, spare us." King Xerxes, astonished, asked, "Who dares to issue such a decree?" Esther replied, "It is Haman, the man sitting next to you. He has abused your trust." King Xerxes was so angry that he could not speak. He stood up and went out into the palace garden. When Haman saw this, he fell at Esther's feet to beg for his life. When the king returned and saw this, he thought Haman was trying to assault the queen and ordered that Haman be arrested. Later, Haman was hanged on the gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. The story of Queen Vashti and King Xerxes paved the way for the appearance of Esther, a Jewish girl who was chosen to be the new queen, and through her, she became a key figure in saving the Jewish people from the plot of genocide in the Persian Empire. Returning to Proverbs 18:22, we are reminded that a gracious woman is also polite and always supports her husband's vision, in contrast to Jezebel, who urged Ahab to do evil in the sight of the Lord. You may be familiar with or may not have heard the story of Jezebel in the Old Testament, known as the woman without a heart. The meaning of the name Jezebel, the woman without a heart, truly does not reflect her true nature. The name Jezebel, which means pure, free from carnal relationships, is the complete opposite of what she was. She was a woman with seductive actions and crimes, with no remorse whatsoever. Truly, there is no name more fitting for her, a woman despised by all. Jezebel was the daughter of Ethbaal, the king of the Zidonians, as well as the high priest of the god Baal. The Phoenicians, including her people, had a culture of idol worship, worshipping Baal and Ashtaroth. She inherited this idolatrous devotion from her father. When Jezebel married Ahab, the king of Israel, she committed a grave wrong that led to disastrous consequences for the entire kingdom of Israel. As mentioned above, Ahab, the king of a nation that worshipped the Lord, went against his faith when he married a daughter of an idol worshipper from the line of Baal. Jezebel, with her charm and strong personality, easily won the heart of Ahab, a weak and passive king who allowed himself to be manipulated by her. Ahab's marriage to Jezebel was not just a marriage, but also an endorsement of great sins, particularly the worship of Baal. Ahab's life was dominated by Jezebel's idol worship for over 60 years, leading to the spiritual and moral decline of the people of Israel. Jezebel was not an ordinary woman. She possessed an extraordinarily strong personality. Her charm did not only come from her appearance, but also from her ability to manipulate and lead spiritually. Despite being a woman of great talent, she used all her power to carry out evil plans, defiling the moral values of an entire nation. She was a fanatical worshiper of Baal. With strength and determination, she tried to force the people of Israel to accept the worship of Baal, even though this nation had faith in Jehovah. Jezebel built 2 temples to Baal in Samaria and Jezreel, and even invited the priests of Baal to live in her palace to nurture and protect the idol worship. Jezebel's worship of Baal led to catastrophic events, including a 3-year drought proclaimed by the prophet Elijah. When Elijah finally confronted the 850 prophets of Baal at Mount Carmel, God achieved a decisive victory in this test of power. Elijah mocked the gods of Baal, and as a result, Baal's power was completely defeated. The people captured and killed the priests of Baal, leaving Ahab utterly terrified. However, Jezebel's revenge did not stop there. When she heard of the death of the priests of Baal, she swore to kill Elijah. This vow further proved her boundless cruelty. However, Elijah, alone against her, had to flee into the kingdom of Judah to save his life. Under Jezebel's rule, Ahab was like a puppet. With his weak character, Ahab could not prevent her wicked plans. It was Jezebel, not Ahab, who was the true ruler of the kingdom of Israel, directing the country's every action according to her evil desires. In the end, Jezebel faced the punishment of God. After she mocked Jehu, the one anointed to destroy Ahab's family, Jehu ordered her to be thrown out of the window. She was trampled under the hooves of horses and devoured by dogs. When Jehu recalled Elijah's prophecy, he ordered Jezebel's burial, but all that was found were her skull, hands, and feet. Jezebel is an archetype of wickedness and violence. Her end is a testament to a principle in the Bible: what you sow, you will reap. She sowed evil, and the result was the horrible death she brought upon herself, just as she had caused death to the innocent. Her death is a reminder of the cruelty and punishment of God for those who defile the land and oppose him. She also serves as proof of the consequences of King Ahab's poor choice in marrying the wrong woman, coupled with his weakness, which led to many severe repercussions later on. In contrast to the women mentioned earlier, a gracious woman will always support her husband in serving the Lord. In this proverb, we see a beautiful truth that is still relevant today. It tells us that a gracious woman who shows kindness, elegance, and refinement will maintain her honor. But what makes a woman gracious? Being gracious means treating others with kindness and thoughtfulness, being polite and respectful in all interactions, and showing empathy and compassion toward those around you. Grace is a quality that reflects the love of Christ and is a virtue that is becoming increasingly rare in today's world. This proverb shows us that a gracious woman will uphold her honor. Honor is a word of great significance. It refers to a deep sense of respect and admiration that we have for someone who has brought honor to themselves through their character, actions, and reputation. Honor is a precious asset, hard to attain, but very easy to lose. So, what about the capable woman? According to Proverbs 31:10-11, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. To be a capable woman means having excellent moral character. The value of a capable woman is more precious than gold and silver. She can win the trust of her husband. The proverb shows us that her husband's trust in her is firmly established, so he lacks nothing. This woman is a source of safety and trust for her husband, and he can completely rely on her. She is perfect, a woman of great worth, and her value is not measured by material wealth, but by her character, actions, and love. This woman is capable, meaning she demonstrates the highest moral and ethical values. She is honest, trustworthy, and upright in all her dealings. She is kind and compassionate toward others, and she serves her family and community with a generous and loving heart. She is a woman of faith, and her life is built on her relationship with God. The proverb also tells us that her value is far greater than rubies. Rubies are valuable gemstones, but the value of this woman cannot be compared to any material possession. Her value is priceless, and it stems from the beauty of her character, the purity in her heart, and the depth of her love. Dear sisters, let us strive to be this capable woman. Let us desire to demonstrate the highest moral and ethical values. Let us be honest, trustworthy, and upright in all our dealings. Let us show kindness and compassion to those around us and serve our families and communities with a generous and loving heart. Let us be women of faith and have our lives firmly rooted in our relationship with God. There are still many wonderful Christian women in the world, and as a man, you should strive to seek her out, and as a woman, you should strive to become such a woman. Thank you for watching today's video. Together, we've explored a valuable lesson from the life of King Solomon, who warned us about the dangers of temptation and the importance of choosing a spouse wisely. Solomon, with his vast experience and wisdom given by God, shared invaluable advice about the women you should not trust, as well as the admirable qualities of a woman who fears the Lord. But what is the most important thing we need to remember? It is that we should not only look at outward appearances, but focus on character, loyalty, and sincerity in relationships. If you are a man, seek a woman with excellent character, and if you are a woman, strive to become the model described in the Bible, a woman full of grace, honesty, and love. So, what will you do to apply these lessons in your life? We look forward to hearing your thoughts and sharing. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to receive the next videos so we can continue our journey of exploring God's teachings and applying them to our daily lives. May you always find wisdom in every decision and live a meaningful and blessed life.